Today is August 10th, 2022, and we are doing the advisory team meeting. It is 6 o'clock, and we have a very small group today. We have Jay Owens, the engineering director and city engineer, and we have Steve Blaine and Michael Lickness Holmes, and it is 4 of us right now eating pizza. So we are going to start this meeting, and maybe we'll end early. Okay? So, thanks everybody. Okay. So Michael, you had a question. I was just going to explain this real briefly.
Yeah, please.
Street safety survey. It's a survey that we handed out hard copy to most of the Night to Unite locations, and we were there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday all day at River City Days handing this out. So we have a lot of hard copies to tally. The community over the last 3-4 years has really identified these 5 as some high priority areas they're not necessarily in neighborhoods. They are busy areas that don't have any street or sidewalk they have a street. They don't have any sidewalk or trail. So pedestrians are walking in the streets. We've also asked people underneath here where it says comments about other traffic safety concerns or ideas. So we've asked people any concerns that they have, any other areas, any other intersections, the engineering department, and would like to know. We will also share the results with the Planning Commission on City Beat, and also with the City Council. So there's a map underneath that identify each of the areas A through E. And I'll just briefly mention here, A and B is this area by Target and McDonald's that link up, and that's that North Service Drive that doesn't have anything. There are a lot of businesses there, but there aren't any sidewalks. D, that blue one, is right behind the brick pottery building. There's a little segment there between Old West Main and where it connects at Withers Harbor Drive. There's like a little block, probably 1 block long, not even, that's
700 feet or something.
Yeah.
From basically the sidewalk ends right there by the not a Snap Fitness, there's a Rip Fitness or Rip Wing right there. And then from there, there's no connection to Withers Harbor, which is the main
It's where Hope is. It's where Hope is also.
Yeah, you're talking about the Snap. Oh, the Ethos.
It's Rip.
Right next to me?
Yeah, right next to you.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was, what's
Rip
it
Wing
called?
or Rip Wing something. I don't remember.
Someone's laughing as right now who's listening to this. But what's the big craze that was a kind of exercise? Okay.
I can't remember.
I'll think of it. I have friends who do it and I can't think of it.
Yep.
And then C, this red line, is Highway 58. So from Bush Street down here to those neighborhoods all the way up to the high school.
There's no connection from that whole neighborhood to the high school, and when they changed their bus routes this past year, we had pictures of kids on bikes and just walking on the highway behind the white line, basically on the shoulder on a MnDOT highway.
I see it all the time.
Yeah, so
There's one little girl I always see on her little scooter. She's always on that scooter, and it just scares me because there's no room for her.
yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Grab some pizza.
Oh, yeah.
For the recorder, we now have Sarah Kern and Jen Santiago. And then the fifth one is letter E, and that is along Pioneer Road where let's hand these out. Pepinwood's trailer home is to the trail connection down at Hay Creek and Goody Pioneer. So these are the 5 locations that the community has identified as 5 priorities, and we're hoping that each of you can explain this is what we handed out to the community at River City Days at Night to Unite. So this is a way to get it started with Jay, engineering director. Okay. Hi, Jay. Here you go. Maybe we shouldn't have started. Anyway, so we're hoping just to kind of get you kind of, thinking and kind of get in this mindset. If you guys can spend a couple minutes looking this over.
And you could take them with you too and come up with some, write some on the back. It doesn't all have to be handed in right now. This is an open survey.
It is, except I kind of want them right now. But anyway, no, you don't have to. But we're asking you to rate 1 and 2. Just your top 1 and 2. And we'll do the neighborhood survey later. That one you can bring home. But, and you're right, Jay. You don't need to fill it out right now. We're asking if you do have other safety issues to write them here on this line. And it's just a way to kind of get your brain thinking about it. Jen, Michael, you can...
Couple of things. I'll start with that first one, C. That'll be from basically 20th Street all the way up to the high school. All right, which I'm just thinking, trying to envision like what side would it be on the left side?
More than likely, we don't have any design done. It's a
Okay.
MnDOT highway, so me being with the city, I'll have to get permitting to do it. I haven't met with them to talk about, but I am thinking it would be on the east side. So it would be, looking at this map, it'd be on the right side, the same side as the high school. So it's coming up the same side. So you don't have to cross the highway again. You'd basically come from that neighborhood at Bush Street,
Yep.
South Park, the big curve where everyone's going 40 miles an hour and it's a 30-mile-an-hour zone right there. People are going 50 around that curve.
Yeah, man, I know how to that.
So
I get it.
it's right there. We want to take that trail all the way up to Pioneer Road, and then of course feed the Pioneer Road intersection, which connects into the trail that's on County Road 21 that goes to the Flower Valley Road
Yeah.
that goes down. So that's the side I'm envisioning it to be on, is the east side. Yep.
The concern after that accident, that was what, last year,
Wow.
where the young lady got hit, was that on Pioneer or was that on 58?
58.
Okay.
It was a pedestrian crossing.
Okay.
I have quite a story about that too. About 2 weeks before that happened, I was out doing some observations of intersections where I like to go out to schools and see where crossings are and see if there's safety things. And what I noticed at that intersection, I think it was about 2 weeks, maybe a month before even, I'm not sure. I noticed that when people were turning left off of Pioneer Road to go back into Red Wing, they were getting a green ball to turn. At the same time, a walk signal was coming up, so you didn't have a protected left, meaning that left turner has to watch for PED because the PEDs are going at the same time. And I got a hold of MnDOT and talked to them, and I said, I know it'll slow down the intersection, but I really think that needs to be a protect. If someone pushes that button, they should get that crossing clean, and and not have that left turner conflict. So I wanted that to turn back instead of, I think it was a flashing yellow. They can go on a flashing yellow. I wanted that to be a red arrow and not let them turn. And then they were doing the traffic study. That's probably, like I said, a couple weeks, maybe. I don't even know if it was a month when we first started talking about it. And then that happened, and it happened to be the same thing I'd been presenting to council and talking to. And I don't know, you remember I came to council talking about that, and then all of a sudden that Friday that happens. It's exactly what I had pointed out to MnDOT. I didn't like seeing that. So it was when school started last fall. So that's now been changed to give them that protected movement. But I feel that intersection's so important that it needs more than a protected movement. I want to get a grade separated. So I'd either like to put in where we can put the pedestrians in a walkway under the bridge or under the highway, or a bridge over the top.
Kind of like that old tunnel over on Old West Main by the Pottery and all
Yeah,
that?
kind of like that.
Kind of like that?
Something to keep the pets off the highway. Yeah.
So I forgot, since we have more people, maybe we should go around and introduce
Oh, yeah.
ourselves. And Jay can introduce himself, and then, we'll start this way.
Okay.
And maybe you can introduce and just tell a little bit about what
Sure.
your department handles, so,
Yep.
I'm sure. Steve's eating,
Roll
so we're
skip.
gonna pass for a minute.
Michael Lickness Holmes.
Sarah Kern.
Hey, Sarah.
Jolohan Toba Walker.
Hello.
Steve Blaine.
Steve Blaine.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Janet Santiago.
Hi, Jenna?
Janet.
Janet, okay. And I'm Jay Owens, the engineering director, city engineer for the city. I've been with the city full-time since 1995. I worked while I was in college in the early 90s, kind of as a summer helper and learning surveying and all the outdoor stuff, the field stuff. So I've had a lot of experience working with the city. I've been now director of the department for the last couple of years. I've been city engineer since early 2000s, 2003 or something like that, when I got my license as a licensed engineer. So a little bit about the engineering department, because we're in the Public Works building. So maybe you guys have met the Public Works people or something.
Sean?
Yeah.
Sean, yep. So we're in the Public Works building, but we are a separate department. And our focus is really overseeing projects and helping secure funding for projects, building things, and putting new bridges in and new streets in and new crosswalks and new sidewalks and trails and things like that. Utilities, all the sewer and water that you see us replace when we're digging up streets, that's designed in our department. And then it's really the Public Works. All those facilities are turned over to the Public Works Department to maintain for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever the life of that infrastructure is that we put in. So we're really on the front end of it, not only the city utilities, but we also, city infrastructure, we also review plans come in. Like we've got proposals on the St. John's, the old St. John's Hospital site up out in the middle of the neighborhood up by Jefferson School. When those proposals come in, engineering department helps the planning department do reviews of all the stormwater runoff and how are they going to get sewer and water. What are the traffic impacts to the neighborhood? So we are involved in private development along with all of the other stuff that we do that's city-owned infrastructure. And most of our projects we do are big enough that we let out projects to a contractor. So we'll put all the plans and specifications together and then put it out for public bid, 21 days of advertisement, and you can get 2, 3, we like to get 4 or 5 bidders on a project because we're hoping to get the lowest number for our taxpayers. We want to be able to build more roads and fix stuff. Right now it's kind of tough, I will tell you that. Supply chain issues and material deliveries and just labor shortage, that we're not getting 3 and 4 and 5 contractors bidding on a job. I've got a big project coming up here next week that we might only have 1 paving company bid on, and that's repaving the whole solid waste campus, where all the garbage, if you bring yard waste out, we're repaving that whole area because the pavement is in bad shape and it's a big project. But so we're kind of at the mercy of whoever's going to bid it. So that's most of our projects are bid out for contractors to build, but then we also do in-house design work for our public works to do smaller type projects. And you might have seen, you see all this pouring of these corners in with the ped ramps around. That's all ADA requirements. There's one at your corner that we're required to lower these ramps, to meet the ADA grades to get people off the street onto the sidewalk. And that requires us to do all kinds of things to people's front yards. Or if you have a retaining wall like it's easy. You just pour up against the bottom of the retaining wall. But other spots, we have to pour a new wall to hold up the grade. And those were...
Remind us what ADA.
Americans with Disability Act, a requirement from the federal government that our infrastructure and our walkways and we have good access for people in wheelchairs and walkers and the disabled. So, and there's a lot of ramps around town, and we've pecked off a lot of them. I think you did a good report on that, Michelle, on how many we've done in the past.
Yeah, it's dozens and dozens.
Dozens,
and dozens.
yeah.
Well, you guys can see too how
Yeah.
every time. Because Jay, isn't it that every time you even blacktop something?
That's what drove the ones there. We were blacktopping 7th Street. If you've been out, we did 7th, and we were down on Bluff and past Runnings. We did 5th Street. So when we're going to blacktop that street, you used to be able to just go in and blacktop. Now, the federal government is requiring, as long as you're putting a new coat of pavement down, you also have to fix the corner ramps to make them accessible. Never used to have to do that with just pavement. The only time you had to fix the corner ramps is when you're rebuilding the whole street from the ground up, meaning we're digging up all the utilities. Then we would build the new street and put it into ADA. But now the blacktopping is triggered, which is a good thing. It's meaning we're pecking off a lot more of those ped ramps around town and getting them compliant. But it also means that your blacktop doesn't go as far because you've got there's probably as much money into the concrete you see poured at every corner, if you count those up and figure out the dollar amount, as you do in the actually paving the street. So it means we probably can't coat as many streets and getting them smoothed out as we used to, because we also are doing that ADA work. But it's important work, it's needed. I know it is because it's so nice to get those letters, which we've had come in from people from Jordan Towers and stuff, and we get this work done. And I remember the downtown one especially, when he was so thankful for that blind gentleman that sent that letter in. And it's like nice to have something saying, you're doing a good job, thank you for doing this, So it's nice to see those kind of things come in to the Public Works Department. So those are kind of our big things. I've involved in securing funding for big projects. You probably heard of the Ped Bridge project. I ran that project down by Old West Main and connected the upper harbor, and we found 80% of the construction funding come from outside sources. So I was directed by council to keep, and I know the project was extremely controversial, and there was a lot going on there at that time with everything else. But if the council's giving me a charge to go try to find funding to build this, I'm going to do my work to find it. And we found a lot of federal funds to cover a lot of and those funds were set up for pedestrian improvements and safety improvements like that. So those funds we found, if we would not have done that project, they would have gone back to the state, and Rochester might have grabbed them and put a new bridge over 52. So as much as I completely respect everyone's thoughts on how government should spend the money, it was basically the council made a decision that that's what it was going to, we wanted to leverage those dollars and build that project. So we built it under budget. That's always good too. So yeah, that's, and along with that it hooks into a trail down along Levy Road. I worked on that project, both the trail that goes to the Cannon Valley Trail, and also, you remember a few years back, we put in a new trail that never existed right along the boathouses, and we worked with Redmond Grain, a private company, and put the trail along the river. How we got that done and how they agreed to that, to go under their conveyor system, It's like that trail is used. It's unbelievable to have that connection from Levy Park back to where the Ped Bridge touches down and then go to the Cannon Valley Trail. It was just one of those things that we work with private entities like that, trying to better the community, and that starts in the planning department and the engineering department to try to put those projects together. So that's a big part of what I do. And then the downtown project, a few years back, 2 phases, we rebuilt Main Street from Old West Main all the way to Potter Street. Had the whole downtown tore up. If you were here then, it was like the biggest public works project in the downtown and in its history. So, and the mains that we replaced under there were from the 1880s, 1870s, old sewer and water mains, pipes that had lived their life and were ready to be replaced with new piping that will hopefully get another 100 years out of. So we did all of that, and that's state highway. But a lot of times states will defer to, even though they'll pay for part of it, and they could be the project manager, they'd rather have the local engineering be the project manager, because so much of it is the underground portion of it. And so we manage the project, and they help pay for it. Just under a $10 million project on that. And then that went right into the River Bridge crossing that I was involved with from the beginning. And MnDOT did that project, and I was part of the city's. MnDOT is the Department of Transportation, so they're the highway department. And Wisconsin Department of Transportation was a partner, the city of Red Wing and MnDOT, and that was a fun project to work on. That was one of those I thought, well, I'll get that done and I'll retire, but I'm not quite retired yet. So that was great, because that was a great crossing to get done. And we had, if you remember, all of the trucks and everyone that came into town had to turn here at 3rd Street And now we put in a button hook and a new signal, and it brings the heavier traffic out to Highway 61 without having to be kind of down by Liberty in our downtown core. So yeah, that's what I've kind of been working on the last few years. And
So it's a lot, and what Jay is kind of hoping, or for all of you, what we usually do, is listen to a department and see all the things that they do, and then find out from all of you ideas that you have. In this case, it might be safety issues that you know of, that you have seen either just around town. If there are accessibility issues you have or questions, it's a time kind of just to ask questions. And I know I'll pop up. Liz had a couple of comments about that Highway 58 crossing too. I want to make sure that I share that. I'll look that up. But and maybe we can. Does anyone have any quick questions about this before? These, we said this right before you came in, these were 5 areas that were identified by the community over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, we've been out to other meetings, of course, and these kind of rise to the top as we talk about areas where pedestrians aren't served. Mm-hmm. I'd like to go back a little bit in time in history on a pedestrian. If you live in old areas of town, like I live on 13th Street, and we have Bush and 13th, and same with you. It's a gridded system. We have.
I'm right around the corner from you.
What's that?
I'm right around the corner from you.
You are, okay. But we are in a time when you built sidewalks. Sidewalks were built, right? So we have this on those type of streets. The sidewalks are there. They were put in with the development, with the street project. When you get into the late 60s and 70s and really into the 80s, car became king, and you go out in neighborhoods that were put in there's no sidewalks, and people at that time, they weren't putting the money into the pedestrian facilities thinking, well, everyone's driving everywhere they need to go, you just get in a car, right? But what you fail to understand, what was failed to understand at that time was sidewalks aren't just for getting from point A to point B, it's also it's also where you learn to ride your bike in front of your house, or have a lemonade stand, or play hopscotch, or whatever, stuff like that those neighborhoods are lacking. That doesn't have that same thing. Like, I loved it when people wondered about me raising my girls there. We just taught them, right, this is Highway 58, this is Bush Street, but this is a highway. And they stayed on that. They went to the corner and went around, but they started with trikes, and then it went to the bike with training wheels. But having a sidewalk, and then they'd go exploring further on their own, and they'd go back down into town, going down Bush Street and stuff. It was just something that I wouldn't have wanted to live anywhere else that didn't have walks. So some of this is in areas where walks are missing because of that. And we have that in a lot of residential areas. And it doesn't mean every one of those that don't have sidewalks are getting sidewalks in those other residential areas, but there definitely are higher volume, more important streets that should have them, and we've been trying to work on those too. Over the years, we've added it to those neighborhoods that didn't have sidewalks put in. So it's an interesting time, but that's kind of the time frame, wouldn't you say, Michelle? The 70s. You were on that committee, that sidewalk committee, that really kind of researched that, and we're not the only community. That was kind of pretty common throughout communities. So.
And over those last 2 years now, it's a little bit more data driven instead of more emotional, because every time an issue would come to the council, it would just be kind of who showed up and who didn't, and if a sidewalk project went through. So that's what this project was a few years ago, was to really figure out a way to rate those so that they were on a numerical rating rather than just super, who was
the loudest voice in the room.
Yeah.
Sidewalk projects are the most controversial projects that I've worked on, because even the people in the neighborhoods, and we've had some shot down in the 11th hour, the people in the neighborhoods that were for it were so afraid to speak up, because they'd have 6, 8, 10 of their neighbors are all, we don't want a shovel, we don't want, So they're tough, there's no question. Yeah.
So I just wonder does anyone have any sort of like, just questions right away in terms of like street safety or concerns?
Oh, I just want to finish with, and then we'll go to that. Part of getting your ideas here, and this is some that are listed that we've had from other meetings and other, but we want to know other areas because we are applying for probably tell them we're applying for that Safe Roads for All federal grant that came out with the that Biden infrastructure package recently that you've heard about with all of this construction and funding for mass transit and funding for lead pipes in the water system, all kinds of funding out there. And one of them is to do studies to find your dangerous or underserved areas for pedestrians and bicycles in your community, and then get the study done so that you can then start applying for grants to actually do the work to build this trail or build the bridge or whatever it might be. So that's what we have a few here, but we want the survey is to kind of get other ideas, other intersections that might be dangerous, other thoughts from people on where in the community we could look at game data, because you're going to need data. You got to go out and actually see, well, we want to build that there. Do pedestrians need to cross there? Are there, do pedestrian counts? And that's what that study would do, put the data together to make the case for building these improvements. And
hopefully a lot of the money would come from other places.
When we have projects, then we'll try to find grant funding for actually doing the work too. So that's kind of what Michelle pulled this together and thought. It was kind of last minute. You said, well, we got Night to Unite coming up and we got River City Days. And she did this like the day before Night to Unite.
You don't have to tell everyone.
No, sometimes you got to work that way. I know. I'm in construction. We build stuff. Sometimes it's the last minute. Yeah.
But we did have the areas identified beforehand,
These
so everybody knows. Yeah, it wasn't.
It was just putting the
on paper,
survey together. Yeah.
Yeah, and it actually over the last, this last week with River City Days and Night to Unite, a couple other areas have come up along 61 to the transit station was one. For people who walk to the transit station. They are in the transit station and they might live just kind of in that old West Main, old fairgrounds area, and they want to walk to the transit station by Perkins. And so there's a little stretch of Highway 61 there. And that's come up from a couple people. So, there are multiple other areas. These 5 kind of keep rising to the top right now, which is why we're asking people to rate their 1 and 2. But you might have other areas.
You might have another number 1 that's different than those, and that's what we kind of want to hear.
Yep. Yeah. And same with the intersections. If you know the intersections that just seem drop the Highway 58 one.
The Highway 58 one, I live near there. You're near there too, right? You said you're in that neighborhood.
I'm right on South Park. Yeah.
You're on South Park. I'm in the corner of 13th and Bush. That corner is designed as though you can come into town going 45, 50 miles an hour with the super elevation, which is the banking and everything. And I'd like to see a slowdown. I'd like to see a roundabout there. I want to get the cars down to 15 miles an hour, but still let the cars come in from the side. Accidents at roundabouts are always in the fashion where the cars in the rotary are going this way and something entering. So they're never the high fatality T-bone accidents. So if you look at studies about the accident rate might not change for an intersection with a roundabout, but the severity is drastically different at a roundabout than it is at a T intersection. So yeah, that's some thoughts, but yeah, that's kind of what we.
To you guys,
yeah.
See
what you think, or
I got a couple questions. Since you know the neighborhood, I'm actually right on 16th and Central Park.
Okay.
Right there where the hill is.
Yep.
And it just worries me because 16th Street doesn't have a stop sign, and Central Park, and that neighborhood has a ton of kids in that neighborhood. Like, I don't know if that's something you guys are involved, like, because you said something about a slow zone or whatever.
Yeah.
Slow down zone.
Yep, slow down, yeah.
Like, because that hill, like I say probably from 17th to 15th, Central Park.
Yep,
Like, there's a ton of kids in that neighborhood.
sure. And there's no stop sign on
On
16th?
16th, and I've had people come super duper close to. I mean, I had a truck hit, public works truck hit my mailbox this past winter.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
yep. Well, that would be one, are you
Can
taking?
you, yeah, I am taking notes, and also,
I can look
can you
at-
speak a little bit to speed, because over the last weekend, all those people for River City Days, speed was, I'd say, the number one thing that came up, and people have been asking about speed bumps, and I know there was a policy about no speed bumps,
There's
and I don't
not
know.
a- Well, you can't put speed bumps, you can put what's called speed tables. But you can't put those bumps that you see in a trailer park, you know, on a city road. But you can do these things called speed tables that are to slow people down because they gotta go up over this thing. They're not fun for our plow drivers, of course, and all of those things, but there are ways to try to address speed. And it's what ends up happening is the people drive those roads that are wider, those older roads that are built are wider than we're building roads today. And having a wider road feels like you can drive faster. So we are looking at narrower lanes and using striping. So, like for example, could you write down that stop sign at
Yep,
16th
I did,
too?
yep.
'Cause
It's 16th.
16th and Central.
Yep, got it.
It's a T in. Yeah.
Central Park.
Central
Central
Park.
Park,
Yep,
okay.
Central Park. We walked that that. We walk up East Ave.
I
and come
think
down
I've seen you a
16.
couple of times.
Yeah, we walked that road all
You
the
see
time.
the food trailer in the driveway, you hit the right spot.
Oh, okay, yep. You're right across from 16th then, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yep. So, I was going back to 7th Street, what we're gonna try to do for a speed control is create some striping that makes the feel of the road be a little bit narrower by adding a fog line along where the parking is. So right now,
Tell them
all
what
you,
fog line is.
yeah, all you have right now is a yellow line down the middle and 20 feet all the way over to the curb. And there's sometimes cars parked in the 10 feet on that side, or 8 feet is usually the parking lane size. And then the other 12 feet is your through lane, but it feels like a 20-foot lane. So when it feels like you have a 20-foot lane, I feel like I can go fairly fast, you know. So what we want to do is add a fog line, which is a white line on the right side of your vehicle that will delineate where the parked cars go into and park, but you'll have this feeling of this white line. So now I feel like, okay, now I'm in between this yellow line and white line, not in between this yellow line and the curb way over here. So it's trying to give a sense of a narrower sense to slow the driver down just by the feel of it, the look of it. So we're going to do that the whole way down 7th. We're rebuilding that next year on the easterly side, but we want to do fog lines all the way into town. So bring it, probably to Plum Street or Highway 58. So that's a speed thing. Another element another thing that I think I would like to see move forward is to really look at our residential speed allowed. So right now, speeds in the state of Minnesota in a residential area are set by statute. I don't have to have a sign on your street or my 13th Street or East Avenue that says 30. It's 30 by state statute, and it's been that way for years and years and years. Yeah. Recently, the legislature has given more, and it was a lobby from city engineers, especially in the metro area, and I was actually part of that too, because we were talking about all our engineering meetings, that gives the cities more control to put their own local speed limits on. So the idea would be is if we could get Red Wing to move to a 20 or even a 25, it would slow the cars down that are, right now if it's a 30-mile-hour on 7th Street, we'll do a traffic count and I'll have an average speed out there of 34, 35 maybe, something like that. If I get it to 25, then maybe it would actually bring the average speed down to where we should have been at 30, on a longer stretch like that. So it's something that you're still gonna drive with all five over.
I noticed when they had our corner all tore up, how slow, the biggest thing was when they cut the tar down
Yeah.
before they repaved it, how traffic had to slow down and
Yeah.
how nice that was.
Yeah.
They were down to where they should be going.
Yeah.
And because from west to East Avenue on 7th or vice versa, or when they go south on East Avenue from 7th, they're getting between 35 and 40 miles an hour on the short
Yep.
area.
On a
And then,
short
yep,
stretch.
yep. And, That you? Haven't seen your car.
My bad, man. I might have been guilty a couple times, sorry. But it makes sense. I totally agree.
Oh,
It makes
yeah.
sense.
So now since we put that new porch on the front, we sit outside all the time and,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
there is a lot of speed.
And well, and
I'm surprised between east and west, how fast they get from one stop sign to the next.
Yeah, and that's not that far.
No, there's
Yeah.
3 houses.
Yeah.
4 houses, in that
Yeah.
block, and they just go flying, and people are walking on East Avenue, and they'll stop at the intersection because they think these people aren't gonna stop,
Yeah. And then
We
you
are
get the
always
one.
busy. We're just busy, going nowhere.
Everyone's busy going nowhere.
I don't know.
That's a good one. Mark that down.
It's in Chilowee, so.
Busy going nowhere. So that's something now we do have a little more control as the.
Did you look
public.
in Wisconsin, a lot of cities in Wisconsin are 20 and 25.
20 and 25.
Yes, and they don't play around with that ticket.
Yeah,
Don't
oh,
get
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I usually let my wife drive once we go down the stairs. I have one more question, I'm
Yep.
sorry. You were talking earlier about the whole Levy Road and
Yeah.
all the
Yep.
work you guys have done,
Yep.
from basically the train station, from
Yep.
the train station all the way to the bridge thing.
Yep.
Is there any thoughts, because I know you guys just recently did paving, any thoughts of revitalizing over there by the Pottery Pond and the skate park? Because I work with a lot of kids, the youth are here in town, and
Yep.
that's something that, it would be a great, instead of having them running all over the streets and stuff, they'll have that access to somewhere where they can go
Yeah.
with their bike or their little push scooter things or skateboards
Sure.
and stuff.
Yeah, so the Upper Harbor Plan, so the first phase of the Upper Harbor Plan, was the Ped Bridge that went in over the railroad tracks from Old West Main. The next phase of it is to reroute Levy Road, which now runs, up by the boat launch, but under the Ped Bridge, so we would turn that area by where the boats launch more into a pedestrian area. And the cars would be more closer to the railroad tracks. And then once it went under the Ped Bridge, it'd swing back over and come back to Levy Road, down closer to the bulkheads, which is across from Pottery Pond there. But with that project, we would perpetuate walkways and stuff to tie
Talking
that
about
into
the
the.
skate park.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yep.
there were some people this weekend who
Yeah.
also brought that up and had some ideas for more art and color in
Yeah.
that whole area, and they were super excited about it. And I'll
If
kind
we're
of
talking
connect-
about revitalizing and just trying to
Yeah.
bring
Yep.
life back to that area, that would be
Yeah.
really, especially with just the overall talent of this younger generation.
There's a little girl, she and her, there are 3 little girls, and they go down there all the time.
Yeah.
And she wants a little, like a green trail for a mountain bike trail. It's like a learning section,
Yeah.
so that she doesn't have to be with big kids,
Yeah.
and she wants like a little learning section. And
A little nature,
They're
kind of a
just-
little nature learning place, kind of like over by Twin Bluff, what we did over there with the nature center.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then there were a couple artists who wanted to do some cool things over there, so I'm gonna write that down as a
Yeah.
potential, because there could be other grant funding, different from what Jay's talking about with
Okay.
Safe Routes, but this would be more, for different reasons, bringing kids together. There's a whole bunch of stuff for that.
Because there's future phases, so I was explaining the phase of the reroute of Levy Road and then the cleaning up. Right now, we have a big gravel parking lot down there that's we're gonna actually put in a large parking lot that's used for the River City events, but also used for truck staging for Redmond Grain. That's who uses
Oh, yeah, that
gravel.
place is usually, when I drive
When
to
it's,
work,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Sometimes, certain times of the year when the harvest is going and that thing gets full, yeah. So we got that, but then future phases would be more down the direction you were talking, by past Pottery Pond, and there's talk about, down where we store boats, where the boat storage is, across from there, we have city property that's been thrown out as a possible campground. The city does not have its own municipal campground. I mean, these are grandiose ideas that maybe years and years down, but you think about it, we don't have a spot, the city could, someone come in wants to camp or set up their pop-up or something.
But what Michael's talking about could be something shorter
Yeah.
scale, or, not so far away. It could
Yeah.
be something but it could hook in, I guess what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's momentum going that way. We did do a project at Pottery Pond a couple of years ago. We re-rip-wrapped and added little fishing piers where you walk down. That was done just a few years back. We rebuilt the whole dock to make it the ADA dock, so there was wheelchairs could go out and there'd be spots where they could fish, not have the railing up in their eyeballs and stuff like that.
At Pottery Pond.
Pottery Pond, we
Okay.
did a
Yep.
pretty nice project there a few years back.
But yeah, there's I've
There's
got that.
other things to think about for making that kind of revitalizing that area and kind of jazzing it up. And I like the artwork idea in that space
Yeah,
too.
there was someone who really wanted to do some stuff. So
Yeah.
good.
I
So
don't-
keep that
Yep.
idea in your mind, because I wrote it down. We're getting that. Okay.
I don't know where the people are coming from or necessarily where they're going, but people go through our parking lot
One
and
of those.
down the embankment and walk along the train tracks all the time. Like way more than I imagined. Sometimes they have fishing gear, so I imagine they're going to Pottery Pond. But then I'm wondering, are they walking to town? Is it because there's not sidewalks?
They're walking down along.
They go
the-
behind Hope's building
Yeah.
and go down the embankment where we have like the tubing, it's not tubing, but like
Yep.
the water to come out of the building to go down. So they go down the embankment there and they just like walk along the tracks.
Oh, interesting. That's another good reason to put a trail. It'll be interesting to see if that is why they do that.
Yeah.
And when they walk along the tracks, are they heading back toward town?
I've seen
they're
it both
heading to
go
town.
both ways.
So you have seen them go
I've
both
seen
ways?
them go both, yeah.
Oh, okay. They're going toward
So I've
town.
seen
They're
people
crossing
pop
the
up from
railroad
the
tracks
bridge.
right there by the Hope Coalition
Yep,
building.
yep. So they'll go through our parking lot, and then my office is right there, and so
Yeah.
I have little mini heart attacks all the time of like, who is this person outside my window? And then they just disappear down the embankment, and I've watched them like just walk along the train tracks.
Yeah.
So they don't go down to the water like by the boathouses somehow and then catch that trail.
Or they
They're
might-
literally just walking.
They might
along
be,
the-
but they have to go down a little further before they cut in or something like that.
Yeah, so if I look straight out my window,
Yeah.
I can see the picnic area by the skate park.
Yep.
And there's a guy that plays, or a person that plays the trumpet there all the time. So
Okay,
like
that's
the
nice.
trumpet concert place.
Pretty trippy,
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, so they go down there and walk along. And Michael's saying he's seen both.
Yeah.
I've seen people come up by the bridge, that's right there by, right there on the corner by Berghammer's
Yep,
and all
yep.
that.
The Withers Harbor Bridge,
Yeah, and I've seen, and I was like, what? So next I've always paid attention and seen people walking up towards McDonald's and all that area. And I've seen people walking the opposite end as well too.
Yeah.
And it just reminds me of the old railways in South Minneapolis, but they turned them into like green
The
walking
Greenway,
paths.
yeah,
and,
the Greenway. Yeah.
but it has a lot of the downfall. Actually, I don't want to call it a downfall. Something that should be thought about is the transient population was pretty ginormous once that was built as well too. But the idea of that campground thing, that'd be quite interesting for it.
Yeah.
Like,
Michelle, is there a reason why A and B are two separate things and not one?
Yeah, good question. So, I honestly don't know the exact reason for that, but I do, and Jay can tell you more, but I do know that recently, like in the last week or week and a half, they have thought about, and Jay can tell you more about where it would go behind the cemetery, so it would not go in,
Yeah.
it would go right
This
to
is
the
a-
cemetery.
This North Service Drive sidewalk is a challenging sidewalk all the way, from Target all the way down to Cannon Valley Trail.
Goes in front of that veterinarian, and there's.
I broke it into a
walls.
couple phases. I want to do the first
is
phase
that
to get it to from Target to McDonald's, because that will pick up, there's a whole neighborhood to the north of that. If you guys have ever been driven back in there, there's a neighborhood of, and I see a lot of people out walking the sidewalk or walking the road, like going to Target or walking down past Arby's or want to walk down to Aldi or something, go shopping kind of thing. And they have to be right on the road. It seems like this stretch is probably the bigger part of it, the more important. So
Was
I
it
want to
more
make that phase
expensive?
1, but phase 2, what's
Was
that?
it just too expensive and too big to do all at once?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because you're gonna do,
Expense.
so you break it for expense and try to get grants, do it. But this second one, this B, we're starting to think that we don't even really need to add the sidewalk from McDonald's down to Cannon Valley Trail, because you're going past the industrial hardwoods, a cemetery, and the vet clinic. There's not like residents that are feeding that. So we thought about taking a trail down. There's a road that goes next to McDonald's that goes down to our Burnside lift station, which is our sewer lift station. If you look off North Church Drive, you'll see this nice little blacktop, and it's kind of a wooded area. It's not even that far, and you get to the Cannon Valley Trail. So we thought, why not direct people down onto the Cannon Valley Trail right there? So we met with the trail board. They're completely supportive. They said this ties that neighborhood. Someone from that neighborhood or whatever, or up at McDonald's wants to walk down to the trail, they can get on the trail and go where they want from there. So,
You talking about that trail down that goes behind McDonald's and the old newspaper place?
yep, and drops down to the Cannon Valley
Yeah.
Trail. Yep, it's not even that far. So,
That's actually a pretty dope idea.
This
So-
is a super small stretch, but the road that Berghammer's is on,
yep,
down to where I'm assuming is on here, where Pottery Place is, Wisteria Twig, there's not a sidewalk there, and that I do see a lot of people walking in the street to get from that corner
yep.
down
Yeah,
to.
that one block.
Yeah, it's just one
It's
block.
the old mini golf course, and then there's
Yep.
there's a sidewalk through the middle of the pottery thing. And
Yeah,
it's
it's
like-
D. So that one on there is
That's
D.
D.
Oh, that's the.
Old West Main
Oh.
Street behind
Sorry,
the
sorry.
Pottery to Withers Harbor Drive. So when Michelle wrote behind the Pottery, she means on the north side of the Pottery. That's exactly that one is right
But
there.
I think I explained that before.
Yeah.
Everybody got here, so.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
also
but I wrote it. Oh, I
Oh, no, I
wrote
was
it.
just,
Wrong thing.
yep.
Oh,
Yep, so
yeah.
that one's needed. You're right. We
That's
feel
it.
that.
For
Because it's
Old
like a
West Main.
gap there.
No.
There's like no connection
So that one you were
from that
talking about at
whole,
McDonald's.
from your area to Withers
Be
Harbor
the
where you
trail
got
would
trails
enter
going.
right here just to the left.
Once you
of
get
his
to Withers
house.
Harbor Drive, you
Okay.
can take
And
the
that's the
Hastings
trail
Trail and go
right
all the
there.
way out to
That's
what
Pioneer
he's talking
Road.
about that
You
goes
could
back
take the
to
trail to go down to the
Cannon
Cannon
Valley,
Valley
yeah.
Trail, or you could take the
That's
Riverfront
the
Trail
one.
and go past the
That
boathouses.
used to be mine.
But-
Is that Bergheimer's Road?
It's
That's
a
Harbor
miss- it's a
Drive?
missing piece.
Things I did in
Yeah.
high school, walk.
So, yeah, D is that one by, yep,
Okay, sorry, I was thinking it was B, I just needed a.
yeah.
That's
Yep.
right.
Oh, you got
Where
it.
that
Yep.
trail starts.
Okay.
Because there's McDonald's.
And then the other one
little
that's on
house,
here that,
and
if
just
you have
to
a
the
question
left of
about
house
that
is
E,
that trail
the
that
last one
actually
is the,
goes way back.
Oh, wait, just a minute, 'cause I
Okay.
can't hear.
Sorry.
No, yeah, too. I'm gonna, I just read.
I was just showing him, he's looking up that map, or that
Oh,
little
that-
trail by
What you were
McDonald's, and I was
talking about.
explaining
Yeah.
it to him.
yep, yeah, that's a neat little spot, but.
Oh, yeah.
This other one we've noticed is this Pioneer Road between Pearlic and the Goody Pioneer Trail. So what this is, Pearlic is the Pepin Woods Trailer Park down to the trail by the county Public Works building. It picks up the Goodhue County Pioneer Trail, and there's no, so
No
you see,
sidewalk.
there's no sidewalk. People are walking in the street because you're coming from an area where you got the Pepin Woods, and there's kids wanting to get down to go on that trail, and they're in the street for that stretch. And that's a county road, but we still feel that's a good project to make a connection.
But is it city property on one side of it if we did the sidewalk on the, no?
Nope, it'll be in county right away. We'd work with the county to do that, but
I know that Kids Junction will take kids from Twin Bluff on bikes down to ride on that trail.
yep,
and I guess I didn't realize that they were doing it in the streets.
They
I
did,
wouldn't have said anything.
once they pass Pepin Woods, that, you'll see
Yeah.
that's where that sidewalk ends, and then you'll see them on the street, and they'll be on the shoulder of that road.
Okay.
And that's a county road, it's a higher speed too, I think that's a 45 mile an hour. It's
At one
it's a
point,
road that we thought we
50.
should have a separated trail.
It turns 50 once you get past the county building.
Yep, the county building, and then
Yeah,
it's
once you hit
50.
that trail right there, then it hits 50.
50 all the way over to County 1,
Yeah.
over to the next intersection.
And they have first and second graders riding their bikes, that seems safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to point something in in the intersection of the 58 and the high school
Yep.
cross. I think so. Install a push bed button that the flashing that you have in the middle school is no. It won't work because the traffic, the stop sign is if you drop your kids, when and the
Yep.
the time.
Which
that
intersection are you talking about?
The 58 and Pioneer Road.
Where there's a signal right now?
No. What I mean, to cross the pedestrian.
Yeah.
Pedestrian, yeah.
Yep.
From the south East College to high school. I mean, it's so dangerous, and what I mean, the 58, crossing
Yep.
the 58. So what
You talking about from Pioneer?
from Pioneer to the high school.
Okay.
So I've been there, and the traffic is so awful when you
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
late. So
Well-
I mean,
So you're saying like a button you don't think would work because it's too big of a crossing that people are going
Yeah.
too fast? Okay, so what
Yeah.
works at middle school would
yeah,
not work
because
at the high
yeah,
Because that's a main road.
Yeah.
and then my thinking is, if you have like a bridge like that, the one that is in Anderson Park,
Yep.
that they
AP.
can cross,
Yeah.
in bicycle or
We-
just walking,
Yeah.
no steps, just the bridge.
So there's that one at 58 and Pioneer. The bridge will be the most expensive option. I think that's the best thing to do if we could put a bridge across there. The one thing that we do have going for us at that intersection is that we could put an underpass in for the pedestrians under the highway, because the grade is really low. You can come down the sidewalk by the tech college, where the Southeast Tech College is, and that sidewalk comes to grade right at the corner. You got to push the button to cross. That's where that accident was. What you could do is dip down, because there's a big ditch there, and you could go low enough to get a big box culvert in and go underneath 58, and then you come out. There's kind of a pond on the other side, and then you can come back up, and then you're back up. Where the tennis courts are on the corner right there, you'd kind of come back up and tie back into that sidewalk. So which is a cheaper option to do. But, and I walk the tunnel every day to school. That one you asked about, or someone asked about the tunnel off Old West Main. I grew up
what
on
I mean, I mean the city built, the bridge in the
Old West Main.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I mean, my thought is, is most important, the
Yep.
kids in the high school,
Can you,
go for
Yeah.
that walk.
Yep.
in,
No, I agree.
what's
Yeah.
the thought about just like a 2-minute conversation? Doesn't have to be super long. And Liz had some thoughts on this about, so she sent an email beforehand about the bridge over versus a tunnel under. She was concerned about student safety if someone were, I don't know, something. She just says, I'll read it. This presented, regarding the tunnel under the highway, potentially for students to use, this concerns me greatly. I am concerned that someone could be in the tunnel and waiting for a student crossing underneath. I would advocate strongly for a solution that makes the crossing visible to all.
Sure.
I'm guessing she means maybe a bridge that's more visible than
Yeah.
a tunnel underneath. I just wondered quickly if people had thoughts about preferences or.
That's the very first thing that popped in my head when you started talking about tunnel.
Yeah.
Was physical assault, sexual assault, kidnapping, like all the high school students not respecting each other's bodies.
Yeah.
Like,
It is, we're in a different time for sure on that. I walked tunnel every day as a kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. That's when we had neighborhood schools. I walked to Jefferson School every day. Never thought a thing about it. You know the tunnel I'm talking about, Corey. And that actually it wasn't open on both ends. You had to go up a set of steps. There could, people standing in the corner. It wasn't a straight, you couldn't see the other side kind of thing. But in today's day and age,
They probably, if they did, they'd probably want cameras or something.
it would be complete, we'd
All
have
the
to
new
light
ones
it.
do that.
Yeah, we'd have to camera it, we'd have to light it, we'd probably even put push buttons in there, calls and stuff. But that being said, the best idea is a bridge.
Yeah, because that's the feeling of going. So there's one on, and you talking about these roads. Sure, I know where they are, but 58. No, Flower Valley.
Flower Valley,
Which is
yep.
Pioneer, right?
Yeah.
If you've gone down past the high school, there's a small tunnel there. Has anybody seen it? Mm-hmm. I get scared walking in there.
That's the one that goes under 21, yeah.
Yeah, when I'm waiting for my kids, I'll park my car and just walk. And when I'm going through that little thing, I'm just like, I guess it's just a feeling of I'm alone in this thing.
No, I understand that.
Yeah, so I can imagine how many smokes are going to happen in there from the high school kids.
Oh, yeah.
All the bad things.
They need somewhere to smoke. That's all.
That's a perfect place for all the gnarly
Yeah.
little things they can. I mean, I'm just thinking, what would I wasn't that high schooler, but I know what the kids are capable of doing now. And put that on break time, they'll just run over there. And we got to think about that so that we don't make it a safe harbor for them to do wrong things in there.
Yeah.
Because it could be a perfect place for a break time, for a smoke, or for all these other things they do in the bathrooms, either on schools. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think it's. And I understand that the other one is expensive, but looking at what we're trying to do is saving the kids and.
I mean, the traffic is gonna be, normal.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
All people are crossing to the bridge.
Yeah,
So
that's the
they
other thing
have to
about this.
stop or wait for the one person cross,
Yeah.
the highway.
And you brought another good thing up about it's not only kids that would use that. Actually, there's people from the Pioneer Road. I mean, it could be summertime. There's people wanting to get on that trail to go down 21 and walk. So it's not just for the school time and the crossings. It's for you and I to go for a
Because I see
walk.
people drive and go park
Because
down
there's
there.
that senior living place over there as well, too.
Yeah,
Right across the road.
To be a nice.
And we got the
little
whole
walk.
Pioneer Road neighborhood of
And how much of an
families.
incline of a walk will senior citizens want? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
depending upon how you get up to the
The Ped Bridge.
bridge or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
There is a couple. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Also, I just saw a couple kids, crossing to the High Park,
Mm-hmm.
street
Yep.
to the high school. So running.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So you bring up a good intersection because that's also part of when I'm showing this connection of this trail up 58 from South Park Street up to Pioneer Road, we know there's still that crossing there by where Danielson Drive and High Park comes out right there. That's that next intersection. It's actually a busy intersection with people going to the ice arena and all that stuff on that side, but it's not controlled. So we're thinking about how we work that crossing out because that whole High Park area crosses right there to get to the high school.
Do you mean by
By the KCUE the radio.
radio station?
Yeah, Alber's Auto, yep, right
One
there.
way-
Guernsey
one
Lane?
way,
Guernsey Lane, yep.
road.
Yep.
Because it's
Sort of
it's
by
the
Fremo
same
Plumbing
thing,
and all
the
that.
traffic and, the cars
little
in
vet
there.
clinic right by
Because
there.
some cars, they want to go to the high school, others to the Pioneer Road, and, other cars, they want to go to the 58, towards to Goody. So, I think so it's just really bad,
Yep.
intersection, so. Yeah.
That's an interesting one too, and we were thinking about what can we do for an improvement there for that crossing, because we know Pioneer Road's an important one for sure at that signal where we had that accident, but that's another one too because that whole neighborhood feeds right across right there.
58 in Guernsey. I just
58 in
wanna make sure.
Guernsey, yep. That'd be part of that 58. That was part of that plan for that study that I got funding for on the trail.
Okay.
What's the funding difference between a tunnel and a bridge? Is it millions? Is it tens of thousands? Thousands?
I would say probably, I'm just gonna throw it out there, no, not, it would be five to 10 times the cost to put a elevated bridge in. Yeah,
5 to 10 times.
5, I would say, yeah, for sure, I could.
Is that one of those we can solicit?
Maybe 5
from the
times,
federal?
yeah.
Can we just like make a
Could-
little
could we-
road or something? Can we just like fly over?
Yeah.
Because for that price, we just have little,
A zip line?
like a little
Yeah.
Jetson. I just.
It's coming, don't worry,
A
it'll be
zip line.
right for you.
I like the zip line idea.
So do a bridge for 2.5 million and maybe do a tunnel for 500,000, 400,000, you know, really, you know, just, you just cut it and you order those precast boxes in and you set them in place.
them in
Did you talk
place,
with
yep.
the parents
You're
of the
done.
high
Yeah.
schoolers?
What did you say, Janet?
Okay, I mean, I wonder if you know, the public works or, you know, they reach out to the community. Because, you know, I think if they talk with the parents from the high schoolers,
Yeah.
we are
Yeah,
more than
definitely.
willing to help because, you know, we
Yeah.
want, you know,
We want the
you know,
safety.
smooth traffic and, you know, the kids that are walking,
Mm-hmm.
they are safe.
Yep,
They will be safe.
yep.
So is this something which can be also solicited from the federal?
Yeah, it would be a good, that's why we need to get this for, the surveys, like I said, is gonna go in with this grant application to show that we're talking and trying to find out where these safety problems are. But if we get this safety grant, then we can do things in that study to put cost estimates and preliminary plans together that allow us to apply for more money to build it. So go try to, if it's 2.5 million to build that bridge, let's hope we can go find 80% of that funding to build it through the federal government, and then the city comes up with 20, or maybe we talk with the county and we come up with 10%, and the county comes up with 10 because they own one leg of this intersection too. The county is 21 on the high school side, and then Pioneer Road is this, you know, so the city. So there's funding partners we need to work together with.
Yeah,
With MnDOT, I'd even
sometimes-
say we'd hit up MnDOT because it's their
State.
the state, yeah, to try to help. But find as much other money as we can.
And
that's-
sometimes there'll be, I mean, occasionally, we have, you know, philanthropic partners, not occasionally, they actually help quite a bit.
Yeah.
But occasionally even businesses will help, you know, it's sometimes individual families, like you said, Janet, but sometimes it helps.
Yeah,
if like
I
a
know.
business,
I know
you know,
what you mean.
yeah.
But you know, I mean, the owners of the business, I bet there are a couple parents, the high schoolers, so they will be happy
Right.
to help.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
It would be a
this-
good community project.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, we've been hearing that a lot about this.
This is an important crossing, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a senior living there and also there.
If you're already looking at 2.5 million, you could make it 3.5 and throw an elevator on there.
Yeah, that's right. Why not,
I
right?
mean, they have them in Vegas and New
Yeah.
York, those bigger cities, they have the elevators that are on there.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one thing that, if you just build a bridge and puts, you know, we would try to ramp it out and everything else, but they've talked about elevated structures where it's a work to get up on the elevated structure. People just run across the road. They don't, there's been studies that show that people are just not using it. You know what I mean? Because it's
Build it,
like, oh,
don't
God,
sweat.
look at those steps, you know, how high, you know what I mean? That kind of is,
What, that's me.
yeah.
I know.
I don't do bridges, I don't do
I just
heights.
imagine, you know, the kids, you know, high schoolers in bicycles coming to the Pioneer Road and cross the bridge and
Yeah.
go straight to the high school.
Yeah, I think, I'm not saying that would happen at this location, that they'd avoid
good
it.
to-
I'm just saying that is something that it's a lot easier to connect when you have grade, when the road is depressed and the grades along the road, like AP Anderson Park. You're over in the park, you're kind of already up at that grade when you get to that bridge. You're not having to climb very much, you know what I mean? Just,
The road goes on.
yeah. So, because the road is depressed in that case. Those are always the best kind, and they're cheaper to build that way too, because you've got the grade to work with. But no, I think the bridge is, I heard that kind of loud and clear from people at council too, that we'd like to try to get the bridge. Well, that'd be more of a push for funding, but I think it's out there, I think we could do it. I think it's a good project, and
What did you say?
I just forget that we need to, make a request. The parents of high schoolers just make a request to the city. So
Yeah, that actually, I mean, that helps.
when we get to the time we're applying for it, we want those types of requests and those support letters from the school district, from parents, from,
so
the
I
community.
suppose we need to, the parents, we need to make the request and then go to the high school board, right?
To the city, to the city council.
City council,
Yeah.
city council would be the best, yeah.
But we will
Start
put
with.
this also out, this will be out online in a couple weeks, so, that would help. But actually writing to council members, I will say, always gets your opinion out there to the exact person and people who, so that helps too, in addition to surveys, having people email their council members, and there's a email on the website. It's just city council mayor at, and it goes to all the city councils and mayor at all the same time. They get it all.
Yeah.
And for engaging, I always tell people, if you have something you're really, really passionate about, you just go right to them. You just, so little campaign right to your council
Yep.
members, because they hear that, they get
Yeah.
it. Yep. What
Now,
do you think, Michael?
the study part of it
No.
is trying to set us up for funding, future funding is what we're trying to do. But there's all kinds of funding avenues, so if we're not successful with that, we can look at other ideas, so. But this is kind of a priority one, is this Pioneer Road intersection, I do know that.
We're getting down a little bit, but any other things before?
Any other intersections you
Yeah.
guys think of, or?
I have a question, and
Yeah.
I don't know if this fits, but in between Sunset, and looks like a French word, Pinot maybe, but Cobble Park, there's a crosswalk that leads into a grassy knoll, nothing else, and it makes me wonder if there was going to be a set of stairs going from Cobble Park up to East 7th that was never built.
No, there were stairs, they were
What
taken.
happened to them?
They fell apart and they took them out.
Can they come
They're
back?
were they
on
wooden?
the wooden ones?
Yeah,
There are a lot of, I live right there, and a
Yeah.
lot of people just walk up and down the grass all the time, like many a day. And so, could
Write
we
that
put
down.
stairs there? There's
Yeah, we could.
The sidewalk or the crosswalk that goes to nowhere.
yeah. Yep, I know where you're talking. There was a set of steps there, it brings you right down.
Shots. Pew, pew.
Yeah.
I will walk up the grass, but I'm not walking down it.
Yeah. So you live out in that area then?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that neighborhood, that 2-block neighborhood right there,
Yeah.
people are going every single day. Multiple people. They walk their dogs down, I'm sure, around Cobble Park and then back up. And they're just going up and
That'd
down
be a
the
good
grass.
connection to go put back
And
in place.
the sidewalk comes up towards town, but it doesn't come up towards the armory.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I see people coming, because that's where that neighborhood is on
Yeah.
that side.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that connection makes sense. That used to be there and I know what you're talking about, yeah.
and I wouldn't say that that's a safety concern, like 58 is a safety concern, but just like.
But
to
it's
make
a
things-
walking connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pedestrian concern, a connection.
That kind
Yeah.
of architecture is just kind of interesting too, like little, I don't know. But like exploring and,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, that, so you see that's one of the areas where we do have, where I've done speed counts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what prompted us to put a speed sign. We had, that was higher speed. That's on 7th Street people get going pretty fast, so.
I know, my son rides his bike out there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think our neighbor actually is elderly, and she comes out and tells him in a very grandmotherly way, "You are going to get run over, knock it off."
Yeah,
It's very sweet.
yeah,
So is that, when you were talking earlier about using lines to slow people down?
Yep.
Where the road curves around Memorial Park, the line does not go down the middle of the road, so like one side of the road is twice the width of the other. Is that why? Is that like a brain game of? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's gonna be cleaned up with this when we rebuild the road.
Okay.
But yes, that is a weird deal, and I think someone tried to do it for that reason. But it is really weird. It's confusing. It's gonna look a lot better with our new design, how we're making that work, and how the parking lines will, you'll see when it's striped in the future, it's gonna be a lot cleaner, and you're gonna feel like you have the exact same width lane in one direction, the exact same width lane coming by, and some places parking goes away because there's some stretches we have to go no parking around that corner, and then it'll open back up to parking. But that white line will continue, even if the parking goes away, there'll be a white line along the curb, and then the parking will open up, and the white line will stay along the drive lane. It'll look a lot cleaner when we get that done next year. So yeah, you're talking about that project, that's phase 1, 2023, we'll go to Wilkinson. And then phase 2 will go from Wilkinson down to the storage units, down by the motel down there.
When that happens,
Yeah.
will people who live there still be able to get in and out of there?
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be closed to through traffic, but we'll, I'm gonna advocate, you probably got a mailing for the project meeting a month ago, a couple months ago. Did you come to the meeting?
I didn't, but my husband did say, the city can't tell me that I can't go home.
Yeah, no, you can get, yeah. We won't want through traffic going through, but, yeah. When we rebuild streets, it's an inconvenience, but we get people around. But
All right, any last things before?
But think of intersections, think of connection areas, think of pedestrian things that you've seen when you're out and about. Think, wouldn't it be safer if we did this? And it can be, just kind of keep your eyes open and think about that, because we're kind of getting into the citywide safety study, and we want to know those places so we can do studies and gather data and analyze different things. So.
And just email Jay. You can copy me if you want, but you don't have to. And it's just like mine's Michelle.Lisey. Jay's just J.Owens.
Yeah.
We can get you that contact information. Yeah, because sometimes if you think of something, it's good to just go right to the source.
And we do small little things just to we know where crossings are. So you'll see push buttons. We've been adding push buttons around town that are just flashers by Jordan Towers. One up by my corner, my house, where the steps go up to Memorial. There's a lot of people cross on 13th. Those now have push button flashers. We've got them over, on 7th Street. We've got a bunch of them. So we do that. We have an interesting one that I see getting a lot more and more use is what's called a Hawk system. And a Hawk system is more than just a push button flasher. It is a pedestrian activated stoplight by the Quick Trip on Main Street. If you've ever, it's got the overhead. They're expensive to put in, but that is an actual stops traffic on the highway for someone to walk from Quick Trip over to the north side of the road there. So
I just have a question about that. When the lights turn red, we
Yep.
should stop. But I'm seeing, some, the cars, you see the people cross and they.
yeah.
There's nobody.
But
I'm not just.
this is the right. This is the right.
If you read the sign, if you read the sign, the lights go red, okay,
Yeah.
and they're red. Then they get their walk signal. They cross.
They cross.
Then when the lights go to flashing red, you can go through that intersection if it's clear. It's the flashing red confuses. Some people will stay stopped. Others will start going because the pedestrians is already on the sidewalk on the other side. Yeah. And the reason the flashers are that way is because not everyone crosses at the same speed, but they average it out saying most people should get across in this time, and then we can go to flashing red. But there could be someone with a walker that's going to take twice as long or 3 times as long to get across.
Okay.
So, but you can go through the flashing red
Okay.
legally. And there's a sign that says that up on top there. But some people, it's done both ways, I know.
They just
Yeah.
stay right there.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Good.
I'm glad we had a good showing here.
We did.
So where were you last night to night? I didn't see you.
Where was
To
Is that a Tuesday?
Yeah.
Church council, I think I had church council meeting or
Okay.
something. I've had so many meetings, it was a church planning meeting or something like that. So this is my third meeting this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I had Wednesday open until Michelle said, come and talk to the group.
It's like, no.
And I said, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Cool on groups
You guys
and
had a
meetings.
good one though.
Huh?
You guys had a good music and everything at yours.
Yeah, it was pretty dope.
At the night unite.
Yeah, it was super, super,
And I
super.
Did you have a good?
It was super dope. I think I seen you drive by.
Because I got stuck at there that I was. Also, we don't do this in my neighborhood, and I'm gonna talk to everybody.
Yeah.
We're doing it next year.
It was just like
So
I
I was
talked to.
invited out, and
Yeah.
by the time we came, we thought it was odd, so we kind of just.
It was hot.
Yeah.
I done switched shirts about 4 times in 2 hours. I was done.
Yep, I bet you.
And yeah, but I didn't go. I got invited to a couple other ones too, and I wasn't able to get to them. But it's a lot of kids in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Super cool. Though. I like it.
Our church used to put on a dinner there. Cheryl Copeland kind of organized it, and then we did it at South Park. That was a few years back before COVID.
I remember.
Do you remember that?
being
We'd do that on a
yeah.
Wednesday night. We'd have,
Yep.
boy, the kids, we were giving away bikes. We were getting bikes from PD.
I remember that.
And doing drawings, and it was just
Gotta do it good.
yeah, we gotta get that
First
started. And
start
yeah, we did that a couple times a month. There'd be, every other Wednesday, we'd have a
Yeah.
supper there, yeah. So we had a good turnout at South Park. That's good to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that anyway, there were some that ended up didn't, but some we went to and.
Was
thought they were
PD,
going to be, but anyway.
there cooking hot dogs at South Park, or where were they doing that? Was that
No, I had
there at the Colville Family Center?
we had Rude Boys.
Yeah, you had Michael.
Oh, all right.
Michael.
Now I got it, yeah.
All right, well, I'll send you the notes.
Good notes, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And think of anything else, fill out more things, send them to us, whatever comes up, yeah.
Okay, good. We just have a couple more, I'm gonna do a couple minutes with these guys, but.
Oh, okay.
You can do.
Head out, all right.
Yeah, okay.
Well, thanks.
Jay.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it's nice seeing you guys and meeting some of you. No, I graduated with that guy, so.
Well, if you see the light on the trailer and me out in the yard with a 6-pack of Red Stripe,
All right.
come by and
I
grab a
know,
sandwich.
I know right where you're at. I'm gonna take you up on that. And we'll look into that stop sign.
Yeah, man. I'm not sharing my Red Stripe though.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah.
Is your house the one that did you just redo your siding in your porch?
Right.
I'll be over later to have a glass of wine.
I told you, man.
That is beautiful.
We'll end early, we'll go to the concert, and then we'll end up on Steve's porch for a drink.
Steve gonna wake up in the morning and see me sleep on his porch.
I'm almost done.
It's good. The only other thing, and we will probably talk a little bit more about this later, but we did do a neighborhood survey that you guys can maybe hand out. I'll get it to you. It's on the other side of this. But if you do have this street survey, you can hand it to me, and then I'll give you another one of these. We did this last week at 19 Night and also at River City Days. And this is based on what the advisory team was saying. We were talking about engaging and wanting to get more engagement in neighborhoods, maybe leading to neighborhood block programs, leadership programs. But all of that, we're doing some research, and it's hard to do things in neighborhoods if you haven't really gotten people out in their neighborhoods first to even start meeting their neighbors. And some people are really close to their neighbors, or they feel a really big sense of place, and then some people are kind of like, well, I kind of live in this area, and they're not quite hard. So we just did this survey to ask people, what do you call the area of Red Wing where you live? And some people will just say, by Quick Trip. Or some people will say, by the Historical Society. Or some people have a really specific name. But we're asking people for some creative names for their neighborhood. And is there a park or landmark that they identify? And then what do they like? And what would make it better? And there were some places that we went that did not end up having gatherings, like Pepin Woods and Grandview and Maple Hills were 3 areas that had scheduled to do them, and I don't think they had them this year. But we can still get groups together in those areas. And I guess what I'm saying is that people have kind of brought up the idea, and some of the research that we're doing is sort of naming and having people come up with names for their neighborhood, and I'm just wondering what you guys think, and we can bring forward a more formal proposal later. But we haven't done anything, we're just thinking about it, is the idea of like having people think of names for their places, and some already have specific, like South Park. Some people just say South Park, and they love that idea, they love that name. Some people might think of, I've got to look up another name. It was
East End.
Yeah, East End. But someone was even saying in between, they were saying down by Caldwell to call it like Eagles Ridge or something because of all the eagles that come in. It wasn't Eagles Ridge. It was something. No, was it?
Isn't there a street already called Eagle Ridge here in Red Wing?
Yeah, maybe. Eagles Landing or something. I can't remember, but it was in reference to the
Eagles
the
Nest.
eagles that come by Cobble. I just give that as an example. So, what if eventually, there were like, and we could do this slowly, but thinking of signs with history, so that there's really some history behind each of the areas, and we can have history done, and then the community or the neighborhood kind of comes together and says, okay, what would we want to do there? Do we want to do a bench? Do we want to do a fun, like some sort of art, creative placemaking? It might be in the street. Maybe it's a mural in the street. It could be something where the neighborhood itself comes together to name it and do something to kind of signify it, and then have some history behind it. What that looks like, I don't know yet, but I'm just wondering, does this group think that that's a waste of time? Do you think that that's a good idea? What are some of the ideas you think might be good or not? And this is just brainstorming, so I don't know what you
I do
think
know
about that.
some I think it's Georgia. I've been thinking, is it Arkansas or Georgia? I mean, it's so nice. Like when you ask them, where do you live? Oh, I live in this, and they kind of know the neighborhood. Say between that corner and that street, it's called this area. So when you ask them, they'll mention a place which is between this street and this street. That's the neighborhood, and they don't really necessarily have like gates. It's like not gated communities, but they have like a statue or the entrance or some kind of a symbol like that. So I was like, why do all these people have names? Because most of the places I lived, it's just like I live in Salvage, way about.
They did that in Arkansas.
Yeah, I think
Town I lived in was
Probably it's
way
in
in
Arkansas,
Arkansas,
Bentonville.
but we called it, where we lived at, it was called the Quarters,
Yeah.
short for slave quarters, because it was old slave town that we lived in.
They probably still have those. I think it's Arkansas. I just traveled there, but they had all these nice names like this. Then you knew which neighborhood. And both my brothers sell real estate, and he said, "I'm going to this neighborhood." So
The only thing I can think
it
of
would be
now is,
fun.
like people say, I live up by the fairgrounds,
Yeah.
the old fairgrounds.
Yeah.
So,
And that
I'm trying
does
to-
have more of a
yeah.
name. It's got some history because there were the old fairgrounds there. But there's some really cool, I met someone on Sunday at River City Days, and he lives there kind of by where you are, but even, so kind of by Cobble, but even further, like toward Lake City, there's just a little bit, right at the base of Memorial at Soren's Bluff. Probably your neighborhood, and also, and just a little bit further away from town. Anyway, and he knew all this history about General Cobble and all of this stuff that had happened, but even with the bluff and families from that area from a long time ago, and but he said we're kind of forgotten. We don't. That was his perception. We are a group of families there, and it's kind of a nice walking area and stuff like that, but nobody really thinks about us. We're just kind of over there. So I don't know, we started talking a little bit, so that's some people have history or they know of it, but even like up by Jefferson, or wherever we do want to put it, the old fairgrounds, in some sort of public space, they don't really have history documented, I guess I would say. Do you know what I mean? Like right there in that space. But again, I would like to go out to more people and see what people think about this idea. So I just wondered what people might think. I don't know. Yay, nay, no?
I think it sounds absolutely beautiful and lovely, and I would never hang out with someone out there because I am very introverted, and I just would. And I think that there are multiple types of personalities and people out there, and that when you think about Night to Unite, I don't know how many invitations I got to go. I was like, I can't do it. Like, when people have to be on all the time, you have to shut off sometimes. And so you're asking for opinions. My opinion is, I think it would be beautiful. I think it would be lovely. I think visitors to Red Wing would think, oh my gosh, that's so cool that the community does this. And I personally, as a resident of Red Wing, would never go.
Well, and what if, so here's and I'm not, because I'm not tied to anything. I was thinking that this would be a place, but not necessarily that people would have to go and hang out all the time. Like, let's use the old fairgrounds for an example, because it's easier, and Jefferson is a place there that, it could just be a place where you go with your kids or something, and you're like, oh, look at the history of our, area, and it would be in different areas of town, so people would know more of the history in different areas, and it wouldn't necessarily be a place where let's do Night to Unite every month, because we would need somebody to organize that, and
Don't look at me.
no, I'm not, and don't look at me. So,
I'm cool on that.
yeah, but it would be, so I don't even know if it would be a place necessarily to hang out more, other than if you wanted to go hang out, here was a place that you went, and for some people, they could create something there together. And Sarah might not be part of it, and I totally hear what you're saying. You know what I mean? I totally hear what you're saying.
She wouldn't just sit around.
Any one person, I will sit with you anytime you want to chat.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
So, well, we'll find out a little bit more. I'll do a little more research, and I'll see what other, but some places are sort of doing this, and it kind of gives people a sense of place. And then the other thing would be is if, as you're kind of getting a neighborhood of people, and I'd like to do some neighborhood walks this fall. We did that a few years ago, and it was a good way just to get people out. People like to talk when they're walking. They're not like staring at you, across the table necessarily, but to have them also say what would they like in their neighborhood. Do they want the steps between, some people this weekend were, the steps by Buchanan's that walk down to Old West Main. There are those steps that go down. Does anyone?
Those are the tunnel.
Yeah, that go to the tunnel. Yeah, so right above the tunnel. And quite a few people use that, and a couple families were like, it could be fixed up, and so how do we do that? Work with the community and get that, that's kind of a bigger project, but there might be some other smaller things that would be fairly easy, not that much money, of course. Might get heat on the listening to this.
I was gonna mention, you're talking about sidewalks and such. We do a lot of walking, and there's a lot of sidewalks around the city that need repair, and they've just, did the pink spray paint or something, and we've just seen the paint wear off since we've lived here, and they haven't been fixed. And there's some that are really bad. Of course, I can't think of anything right off the top of my head, but
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, where there's a lip inside. Okay, good.
some places where the trees on the boulevard
Yeah.
have pushed up the sidewalk, and it's,
Okay,
for the elderly, community,
Yeah.
there can be issues.
for sure. Yep, no, that's good.
Michelle, going back to your history idea, would that be would it be honest history, like the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Yep.
Okay. I think that's cool. What, grunting?
Michael.
I just, I just feel like a broken record on that subject a little bit. Just because we're talking about all these art installations here, art installations there, it reminds me of that racial equity action plan. You know, I keep hearing about doing these, and they're happening. But I still have not seen nothing for. Like I said, I'm sounding like a broken record. I have not seen nothing for people of color.
Well, that's why C2's thing is coming through.
You know what I mean?
So
And
that's happening, that'll happen.
I mean, it is what it is. That's just my thinking. I love the whole art thing. I love it. I have no issues with it. But like Sarah said, if we're gonna do it, how are we gonna do it? Is it gonna be this little facade of, you know, unicorns and butterflies, or is it, you know, this is what this is about? Here's a little tidbit, yada yada yada. So,
My family recently went to the Minnesota History Museum. Is that what it's called? Those words are all in there. And it was like what happened to black neighborhoods in Minneapolis when they put the highway through, and how many families were
the
displaced.
Rondo neighborhood.
Yeah, and what happened for the Native American families and putting the kids in the schools. And it's not pretty, but it's real. And so going back to that, having a place for people to know, because in my generation, our schools did not do a good job of teaching us those things. And if you don't want to find it or see it, you're not going to. So having that out there, I think, is good. And in Levy Park, there's that big plaque about the mass deaths that happened on Lake Pippin. That's not pretty, but it's there. So
That's a good point.
I'll be quiet.
No, that's good. Okay. All right. We'll do some more thinking. Okay, guys. Thank you. It is 7:30, and I promised that we would be done early. It's August. It's beautiful, and there's a concert. So, thank you, everyone. We are now ending this meeting. It is 7:33.